Hi everyone, my name is Phil Casals. I'm the editor of the Santa Fe New Mexican, and tonight we're going to be listening in on city council debates. We hope you'll get a lot out of this tonight as you make your decisions on key races in city council. We're really proud to be partnering with the League of Women Voters and their fine staff to put this on for you. We at the New Mexican plan to provide extensive coverage in all the races. We hope you'll take a look at that as we go through this in the remaining weeks of the election. Again, thanks. Hope you enjoy the evening. Hope you get a lot out of it.
Good evening, candidates and audience members, and thank you for attending the League of Women Voters of Santa Fe County Candidate Forum for City Council District 1. I'm Judy Williams, and I'll be the moderator this evening. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Santa Fe County, I want to express our gratitude to the Santa Fe New Mexican for broadcasting our City of Santa Fe candidate forums this year as a service to the community. The New Mexican's no strings attached support over the years has allowed us to provide nonpartisan, authoritative election information to Santa Fe County voters by publishing our voter guide and now by live streaming our candidate forums. I would like to remind you of our ground rules about masks. If you've been vaccinated, you don't need a mask. If not, please leave your mask on unless you're speaking. I'm far enough away from you, I think I'll be okay. Thank you. I'd like to start by introducing the candidates for tonight's forum. Starting on the left is Joe Hoback. Next is Roger Carson, then Brian Patrick Gutierrez, and Signe Lindell. Thank you all for coming. The candidates have all agreed to follow the league protocols for candidate forums, including respecting the time limits for their responses and practicing civil discourse even when they disagree about the issues. We'll begin with 2-minute opening statements from the candidates and then ask them a series of questions submitted by you, the audience. The candidates will answer the questions in rotating order, as many questions as we have time for. Finally, we'll conclude with 2-minute closing statements from the candidates in reverse order from their opening statements. If you haven't already submitted your questions, you can email them to lwvsfc@gmail.com now or at any time during the forum. The questions we asked tonight have been selected by our screening panel to focus on the issues that seem to generate the most interest. Multiple questions on the same topic have been consolidated, and lengthy questions have been edited down to 1 or 2 sentences to give the candidates more time to answer them. Questions that were directed to one specific candidate or those that contain a personal attack have been eliminated. I'll be giving the candidates a time limit of 1 or 2 minutes, or possibly less if we have a lightning round, which is always fun, for their answers, and they've agreed to respect those limits. Our timekeeper, Joanne Valinsky, is sitting here, and you can all see her. When the candidate has 30 seconds left, she'll hold up the 30-second sign. When they have no seconds left, she will hold up the stop sign. At that point, we ask that you wind up your response immediately. If not, we'll have to interrupt out of fairness to everyone. We'll begin now with 2-minute opening statements by the candidates in ballot order. So first, we will hear from Joe Hoback.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, everybody. Great to be here. A little story about me to kind of tell you who I am and why I'm running. This building means a lot to me. This is where I had my first job in 1970. I was a paper boy, just delivering papers to the District 1 residents. And so my roots go really, really deep into District 1 and serving the community. Just briefly, why I'm running is that I feel a sense of gratitude and a sense of responsibility to give back to our community. I have been given so many gifts in living in Santa Fe, from my health to my wonderful family, my 2 kids, Erica and Alexander, my wonderful friends, old and new, which has been wonderful. And so I feel a sense of responsibility to give back to the community. I feel like there's been an erosion that has been going on in Santa Fe for a while, and I would like to stop that erosion. I'll go more into detail as we go further on, but thank you all for having me, and look forward to a really stimulating conversation. Thank you.
Mr. Carson.
Hello and thank you. My name is Roger Carson, and the quality I will bring to City Council is that of a leader. I'm an experienced negotiator, I'm a certified mediator, and I've been everything from a search and rescue team leader to the elected president of my trade organization. My priority will be to bring people together and to be able to get the job done, whatever that job is. My vision for Santa Fe is a community that is economically and environmentally sustainable, and a place where we celebrate our different cultures and our diversity. So just a few goals I think I'd like to talk about now is, first is housing. Over the last 8 years, housing affordability has plummeted in our city, and lack of affordability puts people at a higher risk of poverty. And it also diminishes our ability to grow our economy. So I'm a leader in the real estate community. It's an industry I know really well, and I'd really like to get to work on solving some of these problems that have been holding us back. Also it's our environment. We need to get onto our environmental issues much sooner than we're doing. Our climate is changing faster, and we need to adapt to it faster. So I'm an environmentalist. I volunteer for environmental organizations, going back in high school to Greenpeace all the way to today as I'm a volunteer at Autobahn. But finally, I believe that we need an ongoing solution to our ongoing cultural divisions. As your next city councilor, I will work on creating an international cultural conference. Imagine an annual forum where all voices are heard and all voices are understood. With my leadership, I believe that we can create a mecca here in Santa Fe for the continued advancement of diversity and inclusion. And thank you very much, and look forward to the questions tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Carson. On to Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you. Good evening, Santa Fe. My name is Brian Patrick Gutierrez. I'm 50 years old and I'm self-employed. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters and the New Mexican for holding this forum together. I'd also like to thank all first responders, healthcare professionals, teachers, educators, and all essential personnel that have worked long and tirelessly through this pandemic. I'd like to thank the other candidates for being here. It's wonderful to see democracy in action. And I'd also like to especially thank my family, my beautiful wife Denise, and my 4 children, Daniel, Elijah, Elise, and Alexis. They're all school-age children, the oldest 18 and a senior, and my youngest, a 4-year-old in pre-K. When I look at Santa Fe, I want a Santa Fe that my children can leave if they choose, but come back to, a Santa Fe that they'll know because it's in their heart and they love it at this age of their life. There's many issues that we need to take care of in Santa Fe, and I am ready to be decisive, have good debates, and make decisions that will have a positive impact on the future of Santa Fe. I was on the Charter Review Commission for the City of Santa Fe in the 2013-2014 last Charter Review Commission, and it was a wonderful experience. For those of you that don't know what the Charter Review is, it's a gathering of a commission where people make decisions about what's going to be put on the ballot to update the charter for the City of Santa Fe. After the Charter Review Commission, I've been on the Planning Commission for 7 years, and I'm the current chair. Being on the Planning Commission, everything's in black and white. Being on the council, we have room to make decisions, and that's part of the reason I decided to run for council. Thank you, Santa Fe.
Thank you.
Thanks,
On to Ms. Lindell.
Hi, my name's Signe Lindell, and I am the City of Santa Fe District 1 Councilor. I'm running for re-election. I was born on a farm, and I was the first one in my family to go to college. I liked college. I stayed and finished a doctorate when I was 25 years old. I then took a teaching job at Kent State University, and I would come to New Mexico during the summer, specifically into the Montezuma Canyon. I made the move to New Mexico full-time in 1989. I started a business, and I sold that business, a successful business, and I became a realtor. I finished out my real estate career working for HomeWise. I strive to make neighborhoods more livable. by addressing constituent issues and passing legislation that contributes to the everyday lives of my constituents. Some of the work I've done includes short-term rental ordinance review, championed a nuisance ordinance, junk car ordinance, major changes to the animal ordinance, which prohibits chaining and requires proper shelter in heat and cold, Harrison Road lighting and sidewalks, free Wi-Fi and mobile home parks, Fort Marcy remodel, secured money for the bicentennial pool repairs, downtown outdoor dining, supported $3 million into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, downtown bathrooms, and I handle more constituent issues than all the other members of the governing body combined. I don't say that to brag, but to show you that my commitment is to my constituents. I want to continue to serve as your counselor because there's much work still to be done. That's the work that I do full time. I listen, I care, and I deliver.
Thank you. Moving on to the first question. The time limit for answering this question is 2 minutes, and we'll start with Mr. Hobeck.
Thank you, Judy.
The question is, how can the city balance the need for development and our dwindling water resources due to drought conditions?
Well, how do we balance? Well, first we have to do is we have to hire a long-range planner for the city. We have not had one for a while. We have to update our overlay map, our future use map, which hasn't been done since 1999. So that's something that we should address. I'm concerned about where we're going with the number of new residences and apartments that are coming online and how that is going to impact our water supply. I just don't know. I'm really concerned about it, and we should look long and hard and study that issue and make sure that we're not overbuilding our capacity of what we have as far as water goes. I really believe that we, as many city departments, we're short-staffed, and that certainly is true in land use. And so I have a jobs program that will bring people back to work for the city of Santa Fe, bring back pride to work for the city, and build a foundation. And before we can run, we have to be able to walk. And so with that, I would bring people back to work for the city. I would go into our high schools and let them know that there's a lot of opportunities to work for the city, that you can continue your college career if you're not doing a traditional four-year college, and that you have an opportunity to learn a trade with Santa Fe. And so I just would really look at building that base from the ground up, and then hiring the best possible people and surrounding myself with people that really know the business of development and then know how to build off of what we have so far. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carson, next.
Thank you, Judy. So water is the topic here in Santa Fe and everywhere in the West. So I think the first thing we need to do is recognize that we have done a really great job with water here in Santa Fe. We use less water per capita now than we did 10 years ago. So we have made lots of gains with the low flow toilets and all the retrofitting we did a decade ago. But we definitely need to do more. So with water, I think it's just how we look at it. So we have kind of a recyclable kind of mindset these days with everything from plastic to paper. But we need to look at water in the same way. You know, water is not a single-use commodity. We need to find ways to recycle the water. Now we have laws that say that, you know, whatever rain falls and hits the ground, we have to let it flow and honor our legal contracts downstream. But we have the ability for water that lands on our rooftops to capture that water. So I would propose we start looking 50 years out. We look 40 years out. We look 30 years out. If we start today on a comprehensive infrastructure program, where if you imagine your sewer system that runs downstream, right? If we did a similar kind of a dual system for rainwater, where we catch the rainwater and then we just allow it to run down to a catchment center, it's low cost to recycle that water and either pump it back into the aquifer and recharge our aquifer, or to pump it back into the river for water credits. So there's many ways we can look at it, but they all take a solid commitment from the government and from our leaders, not just for a year or two or 6 months before election, but it takes a solid commitment to stay on this program for decades. And so those would be the things I would be looking at. We need to recycle our water. Thank you.
Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you. How do we balance development with water? As I've been out hitting doors, that is one of the top issues that people have on their mind. They see all the new apartment complexes and housing coming online, and there's truly a worry in District 1 about balancing development with water. It's sad to say that multifamily housing could have had stringent rules in the past and hasn't. The same rules that affect single-family housing. We need to look at multifamily housing, even though I know they take less water, they use less water than a single-family residence, and put some rules and ratings on the multifamily housing. We need to take a look at our true wet water versus paper water. Paper water is what is brought by developers and giving us rights, but there's a big fear with the Colorado River being rationed this year, and that being one of our major sources of water, that we might run into problems in the future. I don't think these are problems we'll see today, but they might be problems my children see. So we have to keep our eye on water. That is a very important issue, and we need to, with development, we need to put our heads and start thinking out of the box and using gray water so we can reuse that in other ways instead of letting it run down to the treatment facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. And next, Ms. Lindell.
Thank you. So anytime you talk about development, you have to talk about water. And the two go hand in hand. Let's just, though, give ourselves a little pat on the back and be pretty optimistic that in 1995, we were using 168 gallons per person per day. Today, we're using 95 gallons per day. That's pretty darn good. We've done a great job with conserving water. That's the low-hanging fruit. We have, since 1995, we have an increased population of 25%, and we have a decrease of water use by a third. So that's great. Conservation works. Where does our water go? Well, 30% of our water goes to landscaping. So this all ties in with housing. We're going to end up looking at zoning. We have an R1 category of zoning, which means one house on 1 acre. It's really not a very practical zoning for a city. And everyone wants a little bit of landscaping, but on 1 acre you end up with quite a lot. So that's an area that we look at. We have folks that work at the city that are absolute experts. They're scientists, they're experts, they know about water. We've passed we have 4 water sources now. We're going to have a new water source. It'll be called the return flow pipeline. It'll make our effluent water just as valuable as the water that comes from our wells, that comes from the Buckman direct diversion. So we're well aware of water into the future. We're in good shape right now. And what we need to do is stay aware and continue to conserve and always look for new water sources. Thank you. Good question.
Thank you. This next question is also about development, and it's a 1-minute question. We'll start with Mr. Carson. How would you handle the impacts of development as to traffic congestion and wildlife habitat?
Well, excellent question, because that's a topic I'm very familiar with. So right now, we're not following our planning rules and regulations. We have an outdated comprehensive code which guides our policies related to zoning. And what we're seeing now is sprawl. There's a need to start creating housing because we have a housing shortage, but the way we're doing it is a little reckless. What we need is mixed use development that's sustainable and affordable, and we do that by creating opportunity zones where we can concentrate people in a desirable community that's very walkable. So that'll decrease the amount of traffic, and it'll allow more open space for habitat and wildlife.
Thank you. And Mr. Gutierrez, you're next.
Thank you. One of the issues that always comes up at any planning commission meeting is traffic. And included in those meetings are traffic impact reports. I've never seen a meeting where they haven't argued with the traffic impact report, where Santa Fe is doing well on traffic. Traffic is something we hear about while we're out walking door to door. And we need to, with Siler Road Bridge, it's taken some impact off of District 1, but there's still long wait times. We need to look at traffic and have a plan where we can divert and have other streets available. Thank you.
Thank you.
Traffic and wildlife habitat, I don't necessarily see the two as one issue. Let me go a little bit into the weeds and say, as far as traffic goes, any new developments that come forward, they have to come forward with a traffic plan, and we have a traffic analysis. At the city, at this point in time, we have advertised many, many times recently for a traffic engineer. We do not have a traffic engineer. Hopefully, we will have one in the near future. Mixed use, where people can live, work, walk, bike. Remember though, we're a city of 84,000 people. It's hard to get those developments going and make them sustainable. As far as wildlife habitat goes, I don't know what to say other than that bear visits my house about twice a week.
Thank you. Mr. Hellback.
Yep. My priority will always be the neighborhoods of District 1, so safe and clean neighborhoods. And so as any new development is presented, I will listen to the neighbors first. And if there's a traffic issue, I will listen to the neighbors and say if they really feel it adversely affects their quality of life, I will work to mitigate that problem. And certainly with wildlife. So my number one thing is safe and clean neighborhoods for the residents of District 1, and that would be my guiding light for dealing with traffic issues as well as wildlife habitat.
Thank you. For the next question, we'll start with Mr. Gutierrez. It's also a 1-minute question. Creating more affordable housing has been on the priority list as long as I can remember. Why is it still such an issue, and what would you suggest we do? In 1 minute.
Thank you. I looked back at campaign promises for about 24 years that was easily accessible online in the city of Santa Fe. And in those 24 years, there hasn't been anybody that missed a beat promising affordable housing. We know there's a shortage of affordable housing in Santa Fe. We need to start thinking outside the box with that also. We need to find ways to make housing where people can live in it with the help and assistance of programs out there. There's the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which someone will talk about. I wonder how much of that money is going to help with down payments. I would like to see at least half of that money going into down payments for affordable housing. I'd like to get starter families in affordable housing that can move up, and the next person can use affordable housing when they move up and grow as a family. And we just need to start thinking different. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Linda.
Thank you. Boy, tough question for 1 minute. It's always the number one issue, affordable housing. People need a place to live. It's hard to find a place to live in this town. Our homes are extremely expensive. I mean, the rate that they're going up. I live in a house right now that I could not, in my best year of working, ever afford a mortgage for. That's not right. Our housing prices are going up way too quickly. But that's the market. We need to increase wages, and Affordable Housing Trust Fund, you're right, Mr. Gutierrez. That Affordable Housing Trust Fund serves us in so many different ways, and one of them is with down payment assistance. We put $3 million into it this year. We've committed $3 million for it next year. Never, ever before has that kind of money been committed to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And please know, one other thing, that money has to be leveraged 3-to-1 by the receiving entities.
Mr. Hobach.
Yeah, big question. It's a national problem, and growing up here, it became an issue back in the 70s and 80s. Specifically for Santa Fe, there's no silver bullet. It would just be a number of initiatives that we could do to put a dent in the problem. Number one for me would be when we look at the Midtown campus, I would make sure the number one priority there is to build 50 to 60 affordable housing homes there on the Midtown campus. Secondary would be the economic development behind that for that area, but it would rarely happen. I would certainly call for the continued funding of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. I think it's very, very flexible, and I think it really helps real citizens of Santa Fe. Just a huge problem. It's to me, you would have a summit, much like Roger talks about the cultural summit. You know, you would have an affordable housing summit where you bring the best people together. I would look at Tierra Contenta and how we were able to develop that and the homes that we build that and follow that as a model as well.
Thank you. Mr. Carson.
Yes, thank you, Judy. So affordable housing. Well, I supported the Affordable Housing Fund, increasing that up to $3 million. But there's something we have to look at. Since 2010, we've been adding money to that fund, and it gets larger and larger. But if you look at our affordable housing index in Santa Fe, since 2010, our affordability has declined. So we have an inverse relationship. So there's a problem there. When I see money going in to help a problem and the problem getting worse, it strikes me as a problem. I look to the Chapter 14 of our city code, which has the guidelines for how subdivisions are created, how the density, how wide the streets are. That code describes neighborhoods in 1950. Our world is a lot different. We need to change the code. We need to change how we build homes. What we're building right now is just simply not affordable. So we need homes that people can buy, start their families, begin their life, and then get onto the housing ladder and create some equity for themselves.
The next question, well, I have to preface this question by saying that our volunteers had the opportunity to survey some students, I think at Capitol High School students. And we asked them what the important issues for them were. The issue of homelessness was the most important issue. 70% of students mentioned this as an issue. So this is a 1-minute question, and we'll start with Ms. Lindell. Is it possible to create another facility for the homeless to stay at and remove them from our streets due to dangers of them wandering around?
Well, actually, that's more of a question about homelessness. And in terms of homelessness, the number one thing that we can do is to make sure that people are housed right now, that they stay housed. Once a family becomes homeless, it is so much harder to rehome them than if we had not allowed them to become homeless. The homeless problem is huge. We have numerous national initiatives that we're involved in. We just bought, with another group, a motel that is being used, it's being renovated, and we participate in homelessness for vets, we participate in Built for Zero, and we also participate in, as much as this question came from high school students, Youth Homeless Demonstration Program, which is a program of HUD.
Thank you. And we'll go next to Mr. Hobach.
Thank you. We are definitely in a national crisis with homelessness. It's affecting every community in America right now, and certainly I don't have every answer. I would look at Santa Fe's small enough that we can actually go and talk to these people one-on-one and find out what their situation is. Is it something that they just are rebelling against society? Or did they just lose their job and therefore they lost their home, and what we can do? So different people have different needs in the homeless community, and so I would be very targeted on what those needs are. We have some good initiatives now, and I thank Councilor Lindell for that. We have some good things that we're doing right now to support the homeless population of Santa Fe, but we need to build on that. We need to take that to the next level. So we take the crime off of the streets that we have on Harrison Road, which is a part of District 1. It's a scary place sometimes. And so I really would take a very targeted approach to going to each person and finding out what their situation was and what we can do to support them.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Carson.
Thank you. So, homelessness. So the question is about shelters. So when you look at homelessness, there are really kind of two situations. You have the situation inside the shelter and how we help people. You know, to me, my philosophy is homelessness should be brief, it should be rare, and it should be non-reoccurring. And we should return people to productive lives. So when you're inside the shelter, we have social services and people that need more money and programs to get people there. But the externalities is we're talking about when you put a shelter in a neighborhood, it can have negative impacts on the community, the property, homeowners, and the businesses. So you do that by repurposing old, obsolete buildings, and you do it in a way that has the least impact in the community. And that's easy to do. Esperanza Shelter is a great example. You hardly even see the shelter there. It's a different type of shelter, I understand. But that's the idea, is we create shelters that have the least impact on the external side of that issue. Internally, we need to help the homeless.
Thank you. And last on this question, Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you. Homelessness, the people that are homeless, if we think about how diverse District 1 is, we have 2 shelters in District 1. There's different degrees of people homeless, some that may have had bad luck and are out of a job due to COVID or something of that nature, and others who choose not to be encamped in a home. We need to get the low-hanging fruit to try and help them. When we're talking about putting up another shelter in Santa Fe, it's evident we can use one. There's camps throughout the city, there's homelessness throughout the city, and we need to get these people a safe and warm place to stay. So we need to do it in a manner that's efficient and effective and low impact on the neighborhood, whether that's 5 to 7 people, 7 to 10, or something in that nature. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, we'll give you 2 minutes.
Woo, world peace.
You can relax. How would you address the drug issues facing the city? We'll start with Mr. Hovak.
The drug issues. So that's a broad question. I guess that can mean anything. They're not enough or they're too many. I don't know. Yeah, drug abuse. I'm a recovering alcoholic drug addict. I've had over 30 years of sobriety. It's a real problem. And to me, there are programs out there. I've always told people there's help and hope. There is help and hope. I went through my trials and tribulations. Thank God I had a city of that was behind me with my friends and family, and I saw a way out of it. So there is help for people. The biggest concern I have is when I go and we talk about the homeless population, when I go on Harrison Road and I see open needle use, it breaks my heart. I said, we've got to be able to get a way to solve this problem, to help these people, to show that there are alternatives. Coming down off of heroin, I hear it's just one of the worst things ever. And so we have to provide help to the people because I really do believe in education. And then what we do is we make sure that it just is a revolving problem and a revolving solution where we can have people make sure that we lower the dropout rate in high school, give these people an opportunity, these kids, to continue on so they don't feel like it's hopeless for them and helpless. Drug use is really hard. We just had somebody in our family that's close to our family decided to take his own life because he was dealing with drugs and alcohol. And it's really, really hard. And so I think if we get together as a community and we continue to do the things that we do to help people, whether it be through recovery programs, city services, my final thought on this is we have the Alternative Response Unit, which I think is a great program where we have an opportunity to go out and take outreach to the citizens of Santa Fe, people that are struggling with either drug use or a mental health crisis, and we bring trained professionals to support them. And I think we need to build on that.
On to Mr. Carson.
Yes, thank you. Well, my heart really goes out to people suffering from addiction. And Joe, I really appreciate you sharing your story. And
Thank you, Roger.
that's, it takes a lot of courage to deal with addiction and to deal with the problems that people with drug addictions are dealing with. You know, for me, I guess the first place I start is recognizing that people with addictions and drug problems, I mean, they're human. They're someone's child. They could be someone's father or mother or sister or brother. And we have to have a community approach to that. We have to treat them as family and work on that. We have social workers that are phenomenal, many of them working in our homeless shelters because that's where a lot of addicts end up. And we have a lot of resources. Drug addiction is a big issue. I mean, we have everyday working folks that are, addicted to opioids, and those are legal drugs that are prescribed, and they're addicted to it. We just need to rely on our community, and we're going to pass, you did pass the cannabis legislation, and we're going to have tax revenue coming in from the state for the sale of cannabis. Now, I believe that the revenue from taxes from cannabis should go to these social issues, from homelessness to drug addiction, because I do think, that we will see an increase in these issues in our society. So it only makes sense to me that we use the money from cannabis tax revenue to fund our social programs and to fund our affordable housing and to fund our shelters, because this is a serious problem, and I don't think it's going to go away in our lifetime. But we need to do everything we can to help the people that are suffering with addiction.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you. So there's nobody that's immune to the issue of the drug problem. Nobody is above it or below it. It can happen to anybody. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And what we need to do is start with the youth in our community. We need to keep them busy. We need to keep them off the streets. We need to have programs. If they're athletes, where they're able to play their sports, where if they're into vehicles, bicycles, they can go and mentor with somebody at a bike shop, somebody at an automotive repair shop. If they want to play the piano, they can go somewhere and play the piano. We have to have opportunities for children to stay busy and stay away from drugs. It gets deeper as you get older, and there's drugs on the street, and I've seen them that'll kill you now, that they're manufacturing these days. We have to enforce some of the drug regulations that are out there and try and curtail some of the illegal sales that are going on in this city. It's at an all-time high. Thank you.
Ms. Lindell.
Thank you. No place in the country has solved the drug problem. It'll go on long past, well, it'll go on by the time they throw dirt on me. But what we do have is we have programs that are data-driven that we know are helpful. One of the programs that the city is involved in is the Connect program. It's probably the greatest amount of work that the city does with the county. We do this program together. We have 200 navigators that oversee and direct people to 60 different programs. I know that no one thing is going to solve this, and our goal with this is progress, not perfection. But, oh, thank you. What happens is, with this program, we have a limited number of resources, and this program is completely data-driven. We know where we get results. And that way, we can direct our limited resources to those programs. It's another thing about Santa Fe that's so great is we really punch above our weight. We have so many nonprofits in this town. We have over 700 nonprofits. And believe me, a lot of them work with addiction issues, drug issues. We have a recovery center here that operates open to everyone. It's a terrific program. I know all the people over there. It's a matter of getting funding to the programs that are showing results. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question is a 1-minute question. A number of civic organizations are promoting civil discourse in both private and public sector communications lately. What can the mayor and city council do to demonstrate their commitment to civil discourse in Santa Fe? Excuse me. We'll start with Mr. Carson.
Well, civil discourse is how we move forward. And I think we have to look at right now is the structure of our city governance. You know, we just changed to a strong mayor format. And one of the downsides with the strong mayor format is we put the ultimate power with the mayor to make decisions, and the mayor can make unilateral decisions. And with an old system like we used to have with a council manager format, you know, all the councilors at the table had equal weight and equal say. And, you know, the mayor could veto a decision the council made, but still the council had the power. So I do think we have some challenges with our current format to get more discourse from our neighborhoods and from the people within our community. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you. Dialogue, talking. We need to open up the dialogue and talk and let people say what's on their mind, listen to them attentively, and take their opinions and what they're saying and put them to good use. Respect for other people is something that needs to happen. As I grow older, the lack of respect becomes less, and that's a sad thing to see. So we need to get back to respect, listening, and hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lindell.
Well, thank you. You know, there's a difference between civil discourse and being mean and unkind. And I've seen a lot of meanness and unkindness. I've seen people talk to each other in the most unimaginable, disrespectful ways. And I think it's incumbent upon us to let people know that that's not acceptable. We all belong here. It's a big tent. There's a place for everybody. I think that it's indigenous all over the country right now, but I think to set the example of being kind, it's a good thing. And I would encourage everyone to do that, to not be so reactive, to be kind. And big difference with civil discourse and being kind and being mean. Thank you.
Mr.
Yeah, I would just reiterate what's been shared. I think these are very profound comments. I really I appreciate the civility that we have with each other. It's very refreshing, and it shows us a path to the future. I would say I'm a Native American, and we don't say a big tent, we say a big teepee. And so the teepee that I'm from allows all brothers and sisters to come in and share ideas, and we can separate the politics from the personal. And too often it becomes personal, and it doesn't need to be. We live in a small town. We're all going to be friends here after this election, and we're all going to be here and working together. And so I think we can lead by example of what we're doing here, and that we can have roundtable discussions and disagree and agree to disagree. You know, there is hope for the future. I see my kids and how they deal with things, and I am so proud of them because we continue that mantra on. So,
Thank you. Next question is 1 minute. And we'll start with Mr. Gutierrez. If elected, what specific steps would you take to put our city on a firm financial footing?
Thank you. We've all seen the audit. We've seen the city go through previous administration's financial distress. We've seen the sky fall when the pandemic hit. We've seen furloughs that happened to hardworking city employees. And I think that we need to be accountable, take a good inventory, and have a professional, reliable financial department guiding us. As we're doing that, we can make decisions, not shooting from the hip, but informed and educated decisions. We were told that GRT was going to fall by 50% during the pandemic. I think it was 20 or 30%. We need, that's the one response of the governing body, the mayor, to set out an annual budget, be approved by the governing body, and it's one of our major tasks. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lindell.
Thank you. I hate to take my time to go into this, but in terms of financial footing and budgeting, the city operates on GRT tax. The county operates on property tax. Property tax is predictable. GRT tax, it can go all over the place. It's very hard to make a budget based on future projections of GRT. It's hard. As to our financial footing, we just did get the audit. It was an unmodified position. They said that we're in strong financial position. Our bond rating is strong. We had a perfect storm. We had COVID. We were far from capacity in our finance department. We got $15 million worth of CARES money that had to be distributed by the end of December. That's a big lift to do that. And we made a decision that doing the audit was late, and we did distribute the CARES money.
Thank you. Mr. Hobart.
Thank you. Well, this is right up my alley. I spent most of my adult life as working as a banker here in Santa Fe locally. My last position was as the president of a credit union. So it was a nice combination of financial, fiscal responsibility, and people helping people. And I think we can use that model together to bring it to the city finance department. Obviously, we've been late the last 2 or 3 years, and there were some significant findings in the audit that need to be fixed, and I can fix them. I'm not going to throw stones or rocks at the people in the past and what we've had to deal with. What we need to do is fix the problems going forward. Ensure that, like Councilor Lindell says, we have a real understanding of what our GRT is coming in, and then having a sense of priorities of how that money is budgeted and spent. But I bring with it that common sense approach of dealing with the budget, as well as the experience of having done that in the past.
Thank you. Mr. Carson.
Thank you. Well, accountability is everything. Similar to Joe, my bachelor's degree is in accounting. I understand how the accounting world works. First of all, you need transparency. You need to have your books regularly audited and reviewed. And when it comes to budgeting, no one really knows how much money is coming in the future. So I'm on the finance committee at the organization I'm with, the Santa Fe Association of Realtors. We set a budget. When COVID hit, first thing we did, it hit on the West Coast. We called all the organizations on the West Coast and we saw what they were doing because they were already dealing with it long before us. And we started to project our income, our expenses, and we made adjustments. We got through COVID perfectly. So you have to account for your money, you have to balance your books, and you have to be transparent to all those people that you're accountable for.
Thank you. The next question is also from some of the students at Capitol High. And we will start with Ms. Lindell.
Yes.
How would you better our community and help our youth?
Would
2 minutes.
Would you say that again, please?
2-minute question. How would you better our community and help our youth?
Well, how would I better our community? I would continue to do a lot of the activities that I do right now. Like I said, there's so many nonprofits in this town. Many of them are directed toward youth. As a counselor, you end up being involved with lots and lots of different nonprofits. I've attended hundreds of community events as a counselor. I've helped to raise hundreds of thousands, if not a couple of $1 million through these nonprofits. And I think youth are the focus of a lot of these nonprofits. Certainly, I worked very, very hard early on with Councilor Dominguez and with Councilor Rivera, and most recently with Councilor Abeda. And if you didn't happen to see it, it was a joy moment when we did a groundbreaking on the south side for a new teen center. I just don't think it gets much better than that. That's the kind of commitment and focus we need toward our youth. Are we done? Absolutely not. We have so much more to do. Southside doesn't have a pool. Southside needs some other accoutrements, and every youth in this city is deserving of a great recreation program. And I'm 100% behind that. So thank you.
Thank you.
The simple answer for me is that I would better our community by helping our youth and supporting our youth. I'm raising a teenager. I know what it's like. I know the trials and tribulations that they're going through. I wouldn't be 19 again for all the money in the world. What a difficult time. And so specific programs to helping our youth would be centered around, one idea I have, particularly when I'm dealing with sophomores, juniors, and seniors in high school, because there really is an opportunity for them to make a decision about their life. And so I would go into the schools and I would let them lay out to them on a regular basis what options are available to them. Whether they take a traditional route and go to a four-year school, whether, again, my jobs program includes training for our youth to come in, learn a trade, learn how to operate heavy machinery, get a good job, good benefits, build a base here. I went on a ride-along with the police department, and the young man I went with, he graduated from Santa Fe High. He started in the police department as a dispatcher, and he's just been promoted to detective. And that's a real true success story for somebody that grew up in Santa Fe. So they don't automatically just grow up here and then leave and never come back. Or they have an opportunity here to build a career, build a family, and really plant roots in our community and make a difference for our town. Again, what Councilor Lindell said, the number of youth programs that we have to have, we need to expand that. So there are activities during the summer. Keep these kids busy. Keep them busy with things that we have to do. I really like the commitment to the Southside pool, even though that's not part of District 1. I'm glad to see that the bicentennial pool is going to be repaired and be ready for next summer, hopefully. And I just really think that the more activities that we can put into our youth, it pays off tenfold, if not more.
Thank you. On to Mr. Carson.
Thank you. Well, as Joe was saying, you have to keep kids busy. They have to have activities, there has to be recreation, and we need the facilities for that. We also need to have bike roads and bike lanes for kids to get to places. Many of these kids don't drive. So if you have a rec center 2 miles away, but it's busy roads between your house and there, you're probably not going to go, or you're going to risk your life getting there. So our commitment to our bike lanes in Santa Fe has been lacking. We need to really step that up so people can get around our city on bikes and they're not dependent on cars. As a father of 3 children, all born and raised here, and all of them are in college, I know that it takes parental involvement. There's no way around it, but keep your kids active, good in school, and off drugs. The parents need to be involved in their lives. And I'm not blaming parents. It's a hard world out there. A lot of these social issues come to play of parents not being able to afford homes. Affordable housing is a big issue of that. People are working 2 or 3 jobs. So keeping your kids busy is an imperative, but they have to have constructive, meaningful activities to do. And there's a wide range of activities. My kids did everything from track to karate, dance, soccer. It was 30 years of my life. It was a heavy lift to keep people going, and I was pretty much a full-time chauffeur trying to get kids around town. But it paid off, and I'm very proud of my kids, and I'm very proud of all parents that raise kids in Santa Fe, because it's an extremely, extremely tough job to keep your kids off the couch and doing something productive with their lives.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez?
Thank you. How would we better our community to help our youth? This is something I have a personal experience in. Having 4 children, they've been involved in sports, in school, in church. And so back in 5-7 years ago, the soccer fields at the municipal recreation complex where the goalkeepers stay were in such bad shape and getting no attention. We went out, our organization, and filled the holes, bought the sand, got some mulch, whatever it took, so children could play and play safely. Otherwise, there would have been broken ankles and injuries, which aren't make anybody happy. We played our soccer league for the children in Driscoll Center. It was a wonderful center. The city has since decided to close it from the youth, rent it out to Netflix as a warehouse, I understand. That left us scrambling. We had nowhere to put these kids. Remember I said earlier, idle hands, not good for children. You need to keep them busy. We thought outside the box. We bought a portable soccer field, installed it behind the tennis center. The children are loving it. It's being used every single day without any lack of use. There's plenty of recreation for them to be doing in that area. So we need to keep these children busy. As a city councilor, I would make it my priority to work with the Santa Fe Public Schools, because we've hit nothing but roadblocks with them trying to get facilities for these children. The problem with recreation is it's always used at the same time, after school and weekends. So we need to start working as one community for these children. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. And this is not my words, this is an audience member submitting the question, but I will say it in first person. And this is a 2-minute question, and we'll start with Mr. Hoback. I don't know what to think about the tearing down of the obelisk, the way the city handled that, and what we should do to resolve the conflict it has created in the community. What do you think we should do?
My answer is the same. It's who knows what to do. I don't think there is any one specific answer. Obviously, it broke my heart when it happened. I will defend anyone's right to peaceful protest, but when it goes a step further and it involves the damage of public and private property, I think we've taken a step too far. And looking back on hindsight, I think a lot of people would have done a lot of different things, but tearing it down I don't think was the way to go. Certainly it's been an issue. I mean, it was an issue when I was in high school here, and people talked about it. And again, as being a Native American, you know, I didn't take it personally, because the sign of the times, it was what it was during its time. And I felt like it's a shame that the plaque wasn't removed before now. And we could disregard that. What to do going forward? You know, I guess I'm committed to the chart process that's happening now. It's going through. I don't know if there's any binding decision that's going to come out of it, but maybe there will be some good guidance as to how to proceed forward. I will say this, though. I think to heal, a specific thing that we could do to start healing the wounds of our community is that if the city would give the Don Diego statue back to the Caballeros. We have it now locked away. The city has it locked away. We don't know what we're going to do with it. We'll find out later on through the chart process what the recommendation is. But the wounds right now run really, really deep in our community. It's one of the most important things that people talk about. And so I think if we could take specific steps to say, okay, here's the statue back. You can't put it on city property. We're not going to allow that yet until we go through the chart process. But I think that would really go a long ways to start to heal. The other thing I would do is I would have the city leaders sit down together and get in a room together and start talking. I mean, the chart process is great, it's wonderful, but I think that what we need to do is start talking face to face with each other in a civil manner.
Thank you. Mr. Carson?
Well, yes, the obelisk is in District 1. It's in the middle of our plaza in the heart of our city. So it's relevant that this group right here is talking about it. And, I absolutely agree with Joe. For me, it was heartbreaking to see it toppled. I understand the issues. I felt that it could have been avoided in the fact that the most offensive part of the obelisk was the plaque on the north side that referred to indigenous people, the savage Indians. That's totally offensive. It was offensive in the day it was written 100 years ago, and it offends all people today. So that matter had been brought before the city council many times, so the city council did not act and left it there, and it just led to the problem getting bigger and bigger. So for me, the issue with the obelisk is, it represents the role Santa Feans had and New Mexicans had in defeating the Confederates. And that's important because we ended slavery here in the West. That's an important thing to take notice of. For me, the obelisk stood for that. I understand it has different meanings to other people. So that goes back to what I'm saying about a cultural conference. I think we need to respect the chart process, but when the money runs out for chart, and I don't think we're going to have the issue solved. So to me, we need an ongoing solution for an ongoing dilemma. If we have an annual conference every year, and just imagine if we invite world speakers, indigenous speakers, African American speakers, speakers from South Africa, from Europe, to talk about culture and inclusion, and we make that an every year part of our community, we can really move the needle on this discussion because everyone's trying to figure out. So for me, I would move to, as a city councilor, to create a cultural conference here in Santa Fe and become the mecca for the discussion on diversity and inclusion.
Here, Roger.
Thank you.
Good job.
On to Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you.
Who's there?
Hi, it's Brian. Patrick Gutierrez. I'm running for City Council in District 1. Let me get my mask. I want to talk to you. What do you think about what happened downtown? Do you want my answer, or do you want me to try and guess what you want to hear? No, tell me what you think. I think that is the single most divisive issue that's happened to this community in a long time. I wouldn't stop short of calling it mob rule, and I'm saddened that it happened. I understand that there was some writing on there that was not appropriate, but it was history. It was 152 years of history in this city. How do you take history of 152 years and try and erase it? It's not something that should be done in the dark of night. And if you're going to show up in the dark of night to do it, then bring the right equipment, please. I think that agitated the movement even more. The fact that this obelisk was promised to be removed and never got removed. Now, we do need to heal. As a community, we need to get through this. We need to bond together because we are a great community and we can make it through. Thank you.
We are a law-abiding society. We don't condone the destruction of public property. And that's what happened on the plaza with the obelisk. What do we do now? Well, we've committed to a process called CHART, and we do need to commit to that process. Everyone needs to commit to it. It's a process. It's a conversation. And I hope that everyone that's listening tonight, everyone that's here at this table, that everyone will commit to seeing this process through. Will it work? We don't know, but it's a process that we identified. Council made a commitment to it. I think a lot of people in the community have made a commitment to it. People ask me all the time, well, what do you want to see happen at the Plaza? It's not up to me. I am one person. It is up to this community. But we have to come together as a community, and it's going to take some pushing and tugging, but it'll take some compromise. But I believe in us. I think we've been through worse. We've just come through a pandemic. A worldwide viral pandemic. We can get through this. I feel optimistic about it, and I would ask every one of you to commit to seeing this process through.
Thank you.
Here.
Changing the pace a little bit. I think the camera's going to have trouble with this one. This is a 30-second lightning question. I think it probably requires 15. And it starts with Mr. Carson.
Roger, it's your turn.
All right, here we go.
Have you voted in the last 4 elections?
Voted in the last 4 city elections, municipal elections. I think I missed 2. I mean, that's a lightning question. I know I got demonized in the press because they said I only voted once in the last 10 years, and what it was is I only voted at my house in 2022. Anyway, I'm stumbling on this one. I think I've missed an election.
Mr. Gutierrez.
Have I voted in the last 4 elections? The answer is yes. The last time I missed a municipal election was 2010. I might have been living in the county at that time, so yes.
Ms. Lindell.
I haven't missed any, and voting is the foundation of our democracy. People have died for us to have the right to vote. All over this country right now, we're in legislative battles for the right to vote, allowing people to be able to vote easily. Believe me, you can vote easily in Santa Fe. I did it today. It took less than 2 minutes. I've missed no elections, and I think that voting is the absolute foundation of our democracy.
I think this might have to be the last question. We'll see.
Oh, I get to answer.
I'm sorry.
That's right. It probably was intended for Roger and I.
You can do better.
No, I don't know about that. So I voted in all the national elections that I've been able to vote in. I've probably missed a few city elections. I was, living out in Galisteo, taking care of my sick mom who passed away. And as soon as I moved back into town, I've voted in every municipal election I've been eligible for locally. So I've missed some city elections, but I certainly have voted in every national election.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
It happens. The next question is a 1-minute question, and we'll start with Mr. Gutierrez. It's a law enforcement question, and it's both the city and county suffer from the impact of high-speed driving, noise, and exhaust. What would you do to counter this behavior?
High-speed noise and exhaust. A law is only as good as its enforcement. The city of Santa Fe being down over 35 officers right now, when I went on a ride-along, is a reactive force. They're overworked. They're putting in overtime. There's 10 officers on a good day keeping our city safe, from what I understand. And so doing more laws to try and enforce noise ordinances is not the right answer. Maybe doing a blitz somewhere where officers get together and they write out tickets would have some more positive effects. People would definitely slow down, both driving and revving their engines. The other thing we can do is neighbors can ask for traffic calming if it's in neighborhoods. They're more than welcome to ask for traffic calming, get other neighbors involved, and if it warrants, it'll become. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lindell.
I will tell you that it is the number one issue that I hear about in emails. I get at least one email every day about this issue, and I have for almost a year. We've investigated all kinds of different things. Inspections, doing any program with the state is a pretty steep slope. Is it possible to implement a statewide inspection system? It isn't a priority for the state right now. Mr. Gutierrez is correct. The police are down. I met with them yesterday. They're down 40 officers, but I have in fact introduced an ordinance change. The current fine is $25. I've introduced an ordinance change currently to increase those fines. If you can afford to modify your car to put those mufflers on it, you can afford to pay a rather hefty fine.
Thank you. Mr. Hobach.
Yeah, I would just echo what's been said. Certainly, we all understand that we have a shortage of police officers. One thing that I would do is that I would work with the county and I would make a law enforcement package or a first responder package that would be equitable between the city and county. So a person would have an opportunity to decide whether to work for the city or the county, and we wouldn't be stealing each other's officers, and we would make it competitive with Bernalillo County and with Albuquerque, so we can build our police force from the ground up. I think blitzes are real important, like DUI blitzes that we would park, and we would park patrol units, and they would have, my phone has a decibel meter on it. And so that would be something easy to do. I'm glad to see that Councilor Lindell has made a change to the ordinance. I think we should up the fine. I think we should do a blitz, warn everybody, write out warning tickets. Second time around, you got to pay the piper. I would kind of do it that way, but I think it's a great first step, really do.
Thank you. And last, Mr. Carson.
Thank you. Well, increasing the fine is not really an effective solution because we don't issue that many citations for noise or exhaust. That's a fact. So you can deal with that issue on noise and exhaust by having an annual emission test like they do in Albuquerque, because that will keep our air cleaner. Our air doesn't seem that dirty because the way our land is laid out, the air, our dirty air blows into other communities. But we do pollute our air. So if we have an annual emissions, also flag all the illegal mufflers out there that are creating all the noise. I live off Old Taos Highway. I wake up once or twice a night by the sound of some loud vehicle going by. So you can take care of those. As far as speeding, that comes down to traffic design. As a cyclist, I know we need to create more traffic furniture, as they say, more chicanes, speed tables, and right now there's a backlog. People wanting the big speed humps and tables in their neighborhood, and the city's just not providing those. So we need to slow traffic down by design, and we can clean up the air and the noise by having an annual emissions test.
Thank you all. We'll now move to the 2-minute closing statements by the candidates in reverse order from their opening statements. So first we'll hear from Ms. Lindell.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having this forum tonight. Thank you for participating, gentlemen, and it's been a pleasure. I want you to know that I love this work. It's been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your voice on the City Council. I'm happy that I've been endorsed by Planned Parenthood, the Sierra Club, Animal Protection Voters of New Mexico, New Mexico. But the endorsement I need is yours, and I get that by you voting. I humbly ask for your vote, and I sincerely ask you to return me to City Hall as your representative so we can continue working together to make our city and our neighborhoods better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you. Santa Fe, you can get a hold of me by my website, Brian G. For Me. Any questions, please reach out to me. There's a contact information on there. Anybody wants to call me, I'm at 505-629-2211. I'm happy to sit down and talk to anybody about it. You can also reach me on my Facebook page, Brian Patrick Gutierrez. The flyers I've been handing out are simple. They say, working for Santa Fe, families, and future. And that'll be my drive when I win this election. For Santa Fe to be the best place it can be. We all love this place, and that's why we live here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carson.
Thank you. Well, thanks everyone for being at the panel here tonight, and thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on, and the Santa Fe New Mexican for broadcasting this out. You know, I think many of us are on the same page. We have a lot of issues in Santa Fe. There are a lot of problems that are continuous and many problems that just haven't been dealt with. So I think we're all agree that these things are here. But the question is, how are we going to fix them? And, you know, we have lots of consultants, we have lots of data, we have designers and planners. We have a lot of people that deal with these issues. What we're really missing is leadership, and that's what I bring to the table. I have a long, proven history as a leader, and my job will be to bring everyone together and move it forward, and to get things on track so we can make Santa Fe a better place than it is today, because Santa Feans deserve better, and we can do better. And if you vote for Roger Carson for your next city councilor, we will do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would reiterate what's been said. Thank you all very much. It really is nice to see that we can separate the personal from the politics. I think this is a good guideline for that. The big, Santa Fe is a wonderful place. Obviously, we choose to live here, and it's been my home forever, and I love Santa Fe. But I see, if I take a big picture view of Santa Fe, I've just seen this erosion of different areas of our community, just a slow drip by drip. I see, our public safety is just kind of eroding away. It's not like it used to be when I was growing up. No place is. But we're shorthanded on the law enforcement officers. I see an erosion in. I'm so glad we got the audit done, but we can do better. I have a different set of priorities for our finances. I believe we can reinvest in our citizens and the workforce of the city of Santa Fe. I've been endorsed by the union. It means a lot to me. They put their faith in me that I can work with the union. We can sit down at the table together and really build our workforce from that. I've seen an erosion in the beauty of what Santa Fe is and how the city looks. It's one of the big comments I get as I go around, and that a young lady wrote a letter to the editor about Santa Fe losing its sparkle. I don't think we've quite lost our sparkle, but we certainly aren't polished right now. And so I would really make a commitment, particularly to the downtown area, which is so important to our economy, that we would really work on painting the crosswalks and pulling the weeds and continue on with the work that is being done. It's real important that we make it a priority in all areas of the district, not just downtown, all areas of the district, and we do it all the time, even outside of election season. And the last comment I would make is I've seen an culture and our heritage here. And as a Native American, it's very important to me that we continue on with the tri-culture aspect that has made Santa Fe so special. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes this evening's City Council District 1 Candidate Forum. Please join me in thanking all the candidates for their participation, and the Santa Fe New Mexican for broadcasting the forum. It will be available for future streaming on the New Mexican's website, which is www.sfnewmexican.com, and also on our league website, www.lwbsfc.org. Be sure to make your voice heard in this election. Get out and vote, now up until November 2nd on Election Day. Thank you very much, and good night.